You are listening to the EnormoCast.
Hey folks, stick around after today's interview for a bonus segment with Luke Mihal, author of American Climber and friend and longtime supporter of the EnormoCast. Black Diamond is a proud sponsor of the EnormoCast. And this year, Black Diamond is presenting the Rock Project, a dynamic program of outreach, media, and activism to bring climbers of all abilities and origins together to protect climbing resources the world over.
Climbing is our playground, basically, and we use it, and we should treat it like we treat our house.
Pienso que es importante para disfrutar de la naturaleza con otros escaladores.
This is awesome. This is connecting to the community. This is connecting to nature. I want to go back to that every time.
Minimizing your impact, having that be part of the conversation around climbing, along with this is the route I want to do, this is the gear I need.
Understanding that I have an impact, that one person has an impact.
There are a lot of climbers out there that care, but they don't know how to get involved.
Easy way is to get involved with your local climbing organization and the Access Fund, who are working on a national and local level to make sure we can keep climbing areas open and conserve the climbing environment.
Registration is now open for the Rock Project Tour in Raleigh, North Carolina, November 5th and 6th, and in Washington, D.C., November 12th and 13th. Go to accessfund.org or blackdiamondequipment.com for more information on how to register.
We gotta get Listen, where are you playing in town? You playing here?
We're doing the Enormo Dome, whatever it is. It's terrific.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
a
big place that side of town. That's a big place. You sold it out. 20,000 seats.
You really should.
Look, you better get up there before you panic. Those pens are loose. You're very good. I have really enjoyed climbing with you. We'll make it. I don't think so. But we shall continue with style. Good weather, bad weather. Now or later, anytime is good for climbing.
Today's show is brought to you by Black Diamond Equipment, with support from Maxim Ropes.
And the fine folks at La Sportiva. And don't forget our charter sponsor, Bonfire Coffee. Go to bonfirecoffee.com and enter Enormo at checkout for a discount on great coffee and to support the EnormoCast.
And now back to the show.
Hello and welcome to the EnormoCast. This is your host, Chris Kalous. It is September 26th, about 9:30 Mountain Standard Time. It is not the dark time yet. On today's show, Colorado climber Rob Pizem. The thing we end up talking about a lot is the fact that Rob has sort of a full plate outside of climbing. He's a really excellent climber. He trains super hard. He does super hard first ascents, and yet he's got a couple kids and a full-time job and a wife and sort of family obligations, as well as some obligations to the community as a trainer at the gym, and he still gets it done. So all those people wondering how that works, you're going to find out actually that it pretty much works by not being lazy. And the rest of us who can't seem to make it all work, turns out we're just lazy. Maybe. Anyway, that's what we get into on this one with Rob Pizem. Not much else to tell you about. I'm going to be up in Wisconsin in a couple days, but that'll probably be irrelevant by the time most people hear this. So hopefully if you were there, we had a good time. You remember that? It was awesome, wasn't it? Yeah. Drinking beers and hanging out, climbing a little bit. It was so cool. The one cool thing about going to Devil's Lake is I've only ever been there in the heat of summer. And the few times I've climbed there, I actually wasn't a climber when I lived in Chicago. And so I never climbed there sort of in my seminal years, but had been there a few times while visiting family and such, but always in the summer. And I tell you, that rock is slippery, my friends. If you have not climbed there, which I would assume many of you listening have not, it's an iconic place in the middle of Wisconsin that has the slickest, I believe, quartzite that I've probably ever tried to climb on. So hoping that the success rate will be higher than it's been in the past without the crushing humidity. But there is the crushing baby fat that I have going on. So Please, if you did see me climbing while we were there, don't judge me. Don't judge me, okay? It's been a long summer. Lots of hiking. Lots of long approaches to nowhere. Literally, like we hardly ever get anywhere. There's very few trails where we don't just stop and turn around, start going back before we've gotten even anywhere. I don't know where these trails even go because I don't get there. So anyway, it's fun though. It's fun. Don't get me wrong. Love it. Okay, enough of that. Let's talk to Rob. Lo, these past few months, I've been trying to get you, the listener, to support the Enormocast by buying new climbing shoes from Sportiva. But I realize that many of you have some tried and true kicks, and they'll probably have to pry them from your cold, gnarled, calloused feet. But did you feel that chill in the air this morning? That coolness that'll start to draw the masochists from their dark, dry tooling lairs? Well, Sportiva makes mountain boots, or if you're a Honnold, crampon-ready sneakers, to get you up the gnarliest, iciest project your semi-dormant limbic cortex has dreamed up over the happy days of summer. So it's probably time to start shopping for those, if rock climbing is just too fun for you. And they've got trail running shoes for your pre-masochism. So if you want to support the Enormocast, but you don't have any need for finely crafted, high-performing climbing shoes, then go check out their other wares. They've got boots for hiking, ice climbing, mountain climbing. They've got shoes for running, for hiking, probably for dancing even, and rock climbing apparel as well. So go check it out, Sportiva.com, or your nearest outdoor retailer. The Enormocast and Sportiva, like two bros in a bivy sack. So cool. So yeah, but I've been saving you, Rob.
Like
Pizem.
a virgin.
Yeah, kind of. Although actually we kind of had some heavy petting when I had mine on in your living room.
Yes.
That was like close. That was like kind of getting close. But the truth is that I probably talked to you about doing this like 4 years ago or 5. I mean, because I think mine was in the first year.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and so, but I had this like thing where I would save local people. And you're not exactly local. You live over in Grand Junction, but it's still a pretty close drive because at first I had like a lot of trouble lining up interviews. And so I figured, all right, well, if I was hitting a deadline, then, I've got this guy like who lives here in town, or you were like extreme emergency because I would have had to like go out to Grand Junction. But, and then once I got rolling to where I could get interviews better and faster.
Plus people cared.
Yeah, and then you guys you kind of have been stuck in the shadows now because there's a couple folks in Carbondale like Michael Kennedy too, like who's like, I mean, I gotta have that dude on the show, and yet he's right there, and I still haven't done it because it feels like it's so immediate. But anyway, so I apologize, Rob. Although, are you gonna accept my apology?
I do accept your apology.
Okay, he shook his head.
This is like a 5-star hotel I'm in.
Yeah.
And I'm drinking lemon water. It's a fabulous experience right
Nice.
now.
Okay, good. The massage therapist is on her way. So
yes.
We'll get you relaxed. But we did have it scheduled and you got sick. Do you remember that?
No.
You went home early from the show with the flu.
Oh, dude, I got worked.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally went home. I didn't remember that we did have it.
Yeah, we had it scheduled. So it's not entirely my fault that it's been so long. So,
hey, it's always a pleasure.
Anyway. So yeah, Rob Pizem on the show. How you doing, Rob?
I'm doing well. It's been another long day and ready to keep it going.
Yeah, so you dropped into the show for a day.
Just a few hours,
right,
really, not even a day.
To just wheel deal, get your business done, and now you're heading back and you got to start school tomorrow.
Yep, work starts tomorrow, but I still have to work at the gym, train people in the morning before I go to work.
Okay.
So
all right.
I don't want to rest too much.
Okay. Yeah, so we're already rolling into our theme for today. So one of the things that I think, people recognize your name from climbing, from various ascents, which we can get into. But I think what people maybe who aren't that close to you don't understand is that you are this guy who's created this like full life job, kids, multiple jobs, right? Jobs, kids, 2 kids, and you're also able to rock climb at a really high level, find time to train, and apparently sleep
When I get lucky.
Yeah, when you get lucky and sleep. So let's just kind of roll. Talk about your life. Like, set us up. Like, what all the things you got going on are.
It sounds like I have to talk about myself. I'd rather not, but we'll go for it.
That's what we do at the Enormocast. I'm afraid.
I know this is the first one I'll probably.
What do you know
to.
about Michael Kennedy?
He's rad. So I'm a high school science teacher. I've been teaching for 15 years. I've kind of hopped around. I've taught in Europe. I've taught in the Front Range of Colorado, and I've ended up on the Western Slope in Grand Junction. In the meantime, I've really dedicated time to reaching what I like to say is my personal potential. I think to think about 10 years of, I'm not going to get involved in a relationship. I'm not going to do anything other than focus on my climbing and do whatever my job is. And my job was teaching before that I was an engineer. And once that got rolling, I learned how to train from a guy named Dave Wall. And as he kind of moved on in his career, I picked up the slack and ran training programs for folks. So then there was my second job. In the meantime, I picked up sponsorship through climbing just because I was doing the things I liked and people thought it was worth sponsoring me for.
Right.
I never sought it out. I never was sponsor driven or anything like that. It just kind of was like, this is an opportunity because of whatever I'm doing. And, you know, I've always just chosen that line that inspires me. And for whatever reason, it's inspired other people. And so I'm teaching. Then I found the right woman, and I married her right off the bat. Like, I was like, tomorrow, we're going to do this. And within a few months, we were married and working on that. And then a few years later, we've got kids. So I got teaching going on. I got, my wife, my children. I got a 3 and a 5-year-old boy, 2 boys. Teaching high school. I run training programs at the local climbing gym. I run an outdoor program for my high school students, and then I'm going around the country and doing AAC events or other events for my sponsors, giving slideshows, and then I run remote training also, from my house, just when the time is right. Mm-hmm. And then I like to go bolt new routes, and I'm constantly trying to excel and push myself forward with the climbing. So it's, I'm kind of juggling at least 1 or 2 balls.
Right, yeah, a couple. Yeah. So, and I mean, in terms of excelling at climbing, like, you're still setting goals, reaching goals in terms of your climbing. Like, what have been some recent goals set and reached, even just in the last couple of years or the last few months?
I would say I went through phases. I think initially, for me, reaching my potential was climbing well at rifle. Potentially as awesome as that may sound, or as lame as that may sound, I was really into wanting to progress in rifle. But in the back of my mind, that progression was just leading me to go ahead and climb the routes I wanted to in Indian Creek, mm-hmm. like the hard crack climbs.
Right.
So by getting really strong fingers and getting good technique and climbing well at rifle, I went over to Indian Creek and I was able to climb the pitches I wanted to. That progression was then the progression to take me to climbing long, hard, big wall routes, which then, I moved to Zion and, anywhere else that was a large route. So everything has been a progression. And then I wanted to get well at roof cracks, so I spent time, working on climbing roof cracks, and I spent time on off-width. So I would say, as I've climbed over the past 20 plus years, I've made a distinct goal of getting competent. And my definition of competent is, if I want to put a number on it, 12 plus. I want to be competent at every discipline, whether it's slab or vert or overhanging or crack or off-width or, whatever. Mm-hmm. And so the routes that I choose usually are a weakness for myself, or I believe them to be a weakness. So my goal is to increase my weakness, to no longer have it be a weakness. So then I can go out and do another long route, and no matter what obstacle kind of presents itself, that I can figure out how to do it, how to overcome it, along with finishing the route. I've never put up a big wall free route in the middle of winter. In this last winter, I spent the last 6 months, from November to April, trying to do a new route in Zion, ground up, when it was a north-facing wall. Mm-hmm. We got frostbite on the wall, and it was just a journey. So maybe that one was one on suffering. Right. My goal was to suffer more. Which I don't think many people sign up for that unless you're a mountaineer.
Right.
So that's kind of how I approach things. I look at, like, the route that I'm working on now is really bad slopers. So I have a route that I bolted in Uniweep, and there's no good holds on it. So I'm going to really working on my open hand strength and my body position and those subtle things. So the success of me clipping the chains in the end when I do isn't so much about the route being sent. It's more about me showing the growth of accomplishing those skills. That's the way I approach things.
Right. So are you running out of things?
Am I running? Well, shoot. Like,
are you good at everything now?
No, I'm infinitely looking to progress.
Right.
So I'm not
joking.
saying that I'm good at everything, because, man, you put me on a hard boulder problem and it's shutdown land. But that's one of the things I refuse almost to work on because of when I broke my back. Like,
okay.
Landing on my back, trying hard boulder problems, even if it's 3 feet off the ground,
Right.
2 feet off the ground, is not something I'm willing to do
anymore
because I've been stuck in the bathtub. My wife has had to, like, help me. I couldn't get out of the bathtub before. We were on our honeymoon, and I seized up. She had to, like, carry me into a hotel room because I couldn't friggin' move. So if I'm not adamant about maintaining my physical strength through the circuit training and the other training that I do, like, I go down like a twig in a storm. Like, there's nothing left.
So let's seg into that then, because we talked about that right before the show, and I actually had kind of forgotten about all that, even though I knew you and I knew it was going on. And but yeah, you broke your back. So let's talk about that accident in terms of when it happened, getting through it, and then apparently you went back to that route. So can you sort of give us the lowdown on that?
So the lowdown, I was climbing a lot with Mike Anderson, and we were doing a lot of first free ascents in Zion, and it was just, if I had to go ahead and say a big wall free time in my life, it was the apex. It was the balls, Like, Mike and I would pick a line, we'd work at it, and we'd do it. And we both would send it on the same day, and we'd pick another one. And his wife was super awesome about letting us go, and I was single, so every weekend was on. And he had this, like, secret list that he never showed me, but I knew existed. And he's like, we're going to Yosemite. I'm like, okay, I'm in. And so Arcturus lies in the middle of Half Dome, and he's like, we need to go do this or see if it's possible. So we took 3 weeks, and I think 2005 or 2006, I can't remember which one.
So it was a previous aid line?
Previous aid line by Royal Robbins.
Okay, right.
And it started maybe 100 feet to the right of the regular route, and then crisscrossed where the bolt ladder is going on the regular route. Or you could go around and do that 4-pitch variation. And then where the regular route went up the chimney, there was a dihedral that some people would aid, so there were some pins in there. And then pendulum into the actual regular route, a few feet. Have you done it?
No.
You've never done the regular route?
No,
Okay.
I know. It's a huge hole in my resume.
No, it's not. It's a turd. But anyway. So instead of traversing into the regular route, you just stayed in that dihedral. And from that point on, it's fabulous climbing. Like, finger splitters forever. It's amazing. It's really incredible. And so we worked on it for 3 weeks the first year. And at the end of that first year, I had taken a job to teach high school in Austria. And so with about 2 weeks before school started, we were still finishing up the 3 weeks on the wall. We were basically living at the bottom of the wall, working 4 days on, 3 or 4 days on, taking a day off, a day and a half. And then on the end of the second day, we'd walk back up. And we did this. We fixed lines for the entire wall. We had like 8 sets of cams. We had the camp there, the camp down on the ground. It was just tons of work, like 15-hour days regularly. We would get down to camp, eat food, and not even talk to each other because we were so exhausted from cleaning and hand drilling and just figuring out the line. And so at the end of that 3-week period, Andrew Burr's coming out. He's like, you guys done yet? Standard Burr style. And so we knew what the hard pitch was. And it was this crack that pinched off in a dihedral and then went dead horizontal to the left. And then it went dead vertical again. And there was essentially no holds and like kind of voodoo moves. And there was no crack. It just was a seamed corner out. So I had to put in, hand-drilled bolts in. And you could bolt an infinite amount of bolts, but you just can't stop to clip them. So I put in what was necessary not to die. And you just climb until you almost got a place to clip, and then you had to clip from that almost place because otherwise you would get hurt. And so at the end of 3 weeks of work, up and down, up and down, up and down, Burr's out there shooting. I'm leading the crux, and the rope's behind my right leg. I'm kind of stemming out. I'm on nothing. I'm holding on to nothing, and I'm trying to cross clip. So my right hand's crossing underneath my left, and I reached the draw, and that was the end of my energy for the 3 weeks. So I took an upside down, like 50-footer back down to the belay. I protected my head, so I wrapped my left arm behind the top of my head, and then my right arm was the first to impact my hand. So I broke my palm, my hand kind of there, and then I broke my L1, L3, L4 vertebrae, or the transverse processes, right off my back.
Oh, Jesus.
And in that moment, I started, I took the fall. I sat back up on the rope almost right next to Mike because he was belaying me, right from, I went back down to him. And I was like, okay, I'll just sit up. And I was able to sit up, in the rope. And then I said, I think I'm done for the day. And and Mike's like, yeah, I think so. Or, whatever he said. He's like, yeah. And I said, can I have my shoes? And then I went down to try to take my shoes off. And that was the moment that I knew I was hurt.
Right.
Like I knew I was stunned, but I knew like I was hurt. My back was hurt. And so Mike had to help me with my shoes on. And then because we had the wall fixed to the top, which was maybe 500 feet from the top, I had to jug up. And I was literally moving maybe 3 or 4 inches, my feet 3 or 4 inches up at a time. So then I was at the top of Half Dome with a broken back, and I had to walk, not back to the camp at the base of the wall, but I just went straight back to the car. So I had to do an 8-mile walk back, which was awful. Fortunately, I just had like a tiny pack with some water. And Andrew and Mike were doing whatever they needed to do to take care of stuff because I wasn't in a state to. So it was, like a long 8-mile hike. You know how big the steps are on the backside of Half Dome when you're walking down. There's straight down stairways next to the waterfalls, and I was in pain going through, crying and not crying, and it was pretty rough.
Weren't you concerned about suddenly being paralyzed or anything like that? I mean, had you guys done assessments to what was wrong with your back or anything? What was the malfunction with, no offense, but getting rescued?
If I'm jacked, I'm going to go ahead and get help, but
right.
I was physically capable of moving.
Okay.
And I think one of the things that Anderson and Mike and I were very self-reliant, and it's take care of your business. Don't ask for help unless you really need it. And so, they helped me by not making me carry anything.
Right. Oh, that was nice.
What
a couple pals.
So yeah,
Burr's like, hey, carry this lens. It's super light.
But I knew I was injured, but I was how old? If I'm 40 now, and that was, so 10 years, I was 30 years old-ish.
Okay.
Right? At that point in the game, I was invincible. Flat out. I wasn't hurt. I was sore, but I wasn't hurt.
Sure.
Like, my hand hurt, but I wasn't hurt. My back really hurt. I couldn't bend down and tie my own shoes, but I wasn't hurt. So we were actually staying at Todd Skinner's house. That was the year, like he died later in the year.
Oh.
When he wrapped with his anchor or harness failure thing. So we went back to Todd's, and I laid down for 2 or 3 days, and I got up and I could raise my foot like 6 inches. And I knew at that point that I was not invincible and that I was hurt. I was legitimately hurt, and that was the end of the trip. But to our dismay, there's 2,500 foot of fixed line on the wall, 8 sets of cams, a full camp, bare canisters, sleeping bags, all the rope, and everything. So we had to get it back. So I got to walk back up the 8 miles. Mike went up the short way, and I took a lot of Advil or Tylenol or whatever, walked back up, and by the time I got there, which was not quick, Mike had already had a pack filled taller than me to put on my back. Because, again, we didn't know yet. I knew that I was hurt, but it's like, if I can move, how hurt am I?
Sure.
And that was the most hellacious hike back down ever. I literally I fell on the ground. People had to pick me up. I was bawling. I couldn't get on the bus. Like, I was standing there in front of the bus driver when I finally got down hours later, and I just broke down in front of him. Right. Like, I couldn't get on the bus. And then we made the long drive back, and that night we stopped somewhere in Nevada, and I think we were in my truck. So, yeah, we were in my truck. I couldn't help put up the tent.
Dude, you're one stubborn motherfucker.
And then I was
Come on, man.
I started crying again. I'm just like, I can't even help the tent. And I got to go. I'm moving to Austria to go teach at a premier boarding school in like 10 days. Or, maybe it was 12 days or something. And I'm like, I'm screwed. Like, how am I going to go do my job that I just am going to start? And so I finally got back to the States, went to my doctor, and they're like, no, you're fine. You should be able to go climbing. Like, they did an x-ray, but they missed the shot or whatever. I don't know how you miss. And I was like, no, dude, I'm like, I don't want to brag, but I'm a professional athlete, and I'm fucking hurt right now. And they're like, no, you should be able to climb. So I went to, where did I go? I either went to Rockin' and Jammin' or Paradise, if Paradise was still open. And I was like, okay, we're flying back, and I'm going to send this thing right now. Like, I told Mike, the doctor gave me the gear, go ahead. And I went to Rockin' and Jammin' or whatever, and I'm like, I tried to do the hand crack, and I couldn't. I was like, no, dude, I'm hurt. So then I went to another buddy of mine who's a chiro, Dr. Scott Hahn, and I was like, Scott, I'm hurt. And he's like, well, let me take an x-ray. And then here, you pull up the x-ray, and it's like you see the bone detached from my back. It's like, okay, you are hurt. Like, this is why I hurt.
Right, because
I'm
2 bones
broken.
floating in there or whatever.
Yeah,
3.
yeah. And so then I called Mike, and I was like, yeah, I am actually hurt. There's, I got an x-ray, and you can see it. And so that was that. So then I moved out, and I was just telling the guy that rode with me out here kind of this story. I just moved to Austria, and I was living with Harry Berger.
So wait, you just went to Austria anyway?
I had to.
No, you didn't, but yeah, fine.
Well, I'm contractually obliged.
I know, but
so
hey, I broke my back.
Before that, what's even funnier is Burr and I had a climbing trip scheduled.
The Austrians are harsh, but they're not that harsh.
Burr and I had a trip scheduled for Austria. Okay. So he's like, I'm coming. He's like, you can walk, you can belay somebody. So we went out there, and I was living with Harry Berger at the time. This was the year he died.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm trying to I brought a bicycle out there, and I brought my big, I was living there. I'm like leaving the United States. So I had these big bags and boxes, and I couldn't lift anything. It was just like pushing it through the airport. And so we got there, and I had to go on a climbing trip and not climb. And in the end, we met some people I never would have thought I met, like Killian Fischberger went on a road trip with me, and I couldn't even climb. I felt like a total chump.
Right.
Like, dude, but I just broke my back. They're like, oh, why can't you climb this 5'8"?
You look fine. You can walk.
Yeah, you can walk. Yeah.
So let me back up for just a second. So you got this x-ray. Oh, there's bones floating in there. Was there just nothing to do about it?
Yes, there was nothing to do.
They just disappear.
No, they were. So what was happening, he made me get another x-ray before I left. Mm-hmm. And he's like, your muscles are pushing the bones back into place.
Oh, great.
Not perfectly, but good enough. Because there's nothing you can do. Right. So the transverse processes are those wings on your spine, on your vertebrae, and that's what the muscle attaches to. And he's like, they're just getting pushed back in. It's wild. So when I left, they were even closer than when they were before. He's like, we got to just see what happens. He said, you got to do a lot of core strengthening and, back exercises, because what's going to happen is you're going to create an imbalance, and then you're going to hurt the rest of your life. So I've made sure that I've worked that out, by doing the physical training to adapt to it.
So you're in Austria.
So I'm in Austria, and we go on the road trip. I get back and work starts, and it's hellacious. I was teaching 2 AP classes, science and and then biology and chemistry, and then a junior high science. So I was working literally from 6 a.m. to midnight every night for the first 6 months. And Harry Berger's like, I've never seen anyone work this hard. I'm like, 1, I'm injured, dude. And 2, this is hard. I was, again, telling Matt on the way here, it's funny we're having this conversation, but I had to not only prep every lab, but I had to do every lab, because I hadn't taught AP anything before I left there. I went to a training over the summer before I broke my back, and then for the 2 classes, and I had to do everything so I could answer. I had to do all the calculations, and I hadn't done them in years. And so it was hard. And in the meantime, as I slowly started to get better, Harry had a room in his house that was literally like your hotel room here, floor to ceiling wall, or holds it all the way across, top, bottom, all walls. And he's like, this is where I dry tool. I'm like, it's like 10 by 10. And he's like, yeah, this is where Kirsten does, and Inez, Papir, and myself. This is where we get strong. I'm like, are you kidding me? And there's just some mattresses on the floor, and it was pretty hardcore. It was pretty awesome. And I couldn't do any of the boulder problems in there that they had said, or any of the stuff. And But, as I healed up through the months, I was able to go on a climbing trip to Spain over winter break. And that was when I decided I was moving back because my dad had a heart attack, and I was crushed at that time. And so I finished my contract out. I trained from winter break all the way back to when we got to go back to Arcturus. So Mike and I were like, yeah, we're going back this summer. And in the meantime, Mike Brumbaugh and I did a spring break trip to Sweden. And I'm only telling you this because I was still messed in the head from the fall. I went sport climbing and I was okay, but when I went trad climbing in Sweden over spring break, I was freezing up over 5'9". I was not getting it done. And I was really nervous that the fall. So
now it's your head.
Now it's my head. My back was okay. I was healed up. I was then now just building my fitness, but I did not have the mental capacity to go ahead and lead over anything hard. And these guys in Sweden, my friend Jonas was yeah, dude, I wanted you to do these kind of head point routes and this cool stuff. You're badass American crack climber. I'm like, no, I'm not really badass. I just, I can get it done sometimes. And so I went there and climbed 5'9", 5'10" the whole time. And I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to go ahead and finish Arcturus when the crux is as hard as it is, and I know what can happen if you make a mistake. And so it was weighing on me. So I really trained and got my fitness level up those last few months before I moved back to the States. And when I got there, Mike and I needed to put another 3.5 weeks into the route. And in the end, we finished it on a 3-day push and literally overcoming that pitch. I didn't do it first try by any means. I had to work it. And overcoming that single pitch, in whatever, a year later, 2007, was, for me, I don't think I will or have done anything that is more significant in my career. No matter whatever I put up, it doesn't matter. There's nothing more than overcoming the fact that there was a major head block for me to go ahead and try hard over the gear, or even over the bolts for that matter, whatever. And that's where I have this super confidence that I can really achieve whatever I want. Mm-hmm. If clean the plate or figure out how to do it with everything on the plate, I know I can achieve it because of that.
Is there any way to talk about in more detail, what you did to be able to do that? I mean, was it just a matter of that you kept trying to climb a little harder and a little harder? Or, I mean, you went from being freaked out on 5'9" to doing, I don't know, it's probably how hard is it? 5'13" harder?
13 plus-ish, right. Maybe the next number, but I don't like to say that number.
Right. So how did you get there? I mean, you
I would say
kind of
there certainly was a progression, right?
Okay.
I had a bunch of big walls in and around Salzburg in the Alps that I wanted to go ahead and do, and some of them I wanted to on-site. And on-siting is different than red pointing. On-siting is laying it on the line, whatever you figure out on the way you're doing, rather than the perfect beta. And I was able to on-site some of the harder routes multi-pitch routes that I wanted to, which gave me confidence that I could go for it again. Harry, before he died, he got me working on this one route at a local crag near his house, and I was able to accomplish that one, which when I moved there, I was like, you're kidding me, dude. And it was a hard route for me, and it was kind of sportily protected, and so I worked at that over and over and over, and then, I dialed it down and I sent it, but more so it was the fact of overcoming the difficulty. And in doing that, it's a mental breakdown. One of the things I teach when I work with folks when I'm training, that practice doesn't make perfect, it's perfect practice makes perfect. So what is involved in perfect practice is not only the visualization of the execution, it's then executing it perfectly, rather than just trying hard over and over the wrong way. You're not really doing yourself any favors. So that route was so technically demanding that Harry had put me on. It made me execute everything perfectly, and I knew that when you do it perfectly, that it doesn't matter where you're at, you're going to do it. Because you're just executing it well, which is going to eliminate the level of having to max out. I'm not maxed out because I'm doing this well. So if you're not maxed out, you're going to keep going. And if you keep going, you're going to get there. So my mentality always, just as a climber, has been, I'm going to keep going. But it was that fall and then the injury that came afterward was it's kind of stunted it. So it was a matter of just...
You kept going and then you fucked yourself up. So
yeah.
Right. So the rule had failed you, so to speak.
But through that experience, I kept up in the ante, and by the time I was back in Yosemite, I was in prime shape. I was literally, everything needed to be worked on. Not only my cardio, not only my finger strength, but my core strength and the head game. So all those things came together for the route and for Mike to have it done. I was working in Austria. He was working in, Colorado Springs, getting ready for this thing. Two of us, we didn't have any, we were a year apart. It's like a bromance. And then we came back together and were able to put it together. And that was really rad. Which was also, because actually on the second day, I think I threw up the whole day too. We only did 4 pitches, when on the 3-day push. We probably would have gotten it too, but I got heinous sick up there. But, so the mental game, I think I have a strong mental game, and maybe I can date it back to my days of being a high school golfer.
Okay.
In that, again, that's where I first learned that mantra. You don't go ahead and just beat your balls. You beat them perfectly.
It's a good rule. That's a T-shirt. There's a T-shirt in there somewhere.
But yeah, and once I could focus on the execution rather than the outcome, the execution became easier. Does that make sense? Because and this is something I work with the people that I train in the gym also, or, whenever. If we focus on getting to the next bolt, we've lost our focus on execution of the movement. If we focus on the execution of the movement, the bolt will appear before us, or the piece of protection that you need to put in, because we're dedicating everything we have to that rather than diverting it and separating it to like, where's the bolt? I'm almost there. Now I'm scared, rather than execute. So that's kind of the way that I can get through things.
Right. Yeah. And you sent that, you clipped that bolt.
Yeah. And then that was nice.
Yeah, I bet. I mean, it's very, like, what you're saying makes total sense. And then there's obviously
living it.
Yeah, living it. And it's, I mean, to be, man, it must have been pretty wild to be climbing up towards that bolt.
It was, getting up to there was really awesome. Like, we had such a blast. Right. But each pitch we got closer, it was like, this door is opening.
Right.
And so there was that self-pressure that I put on myself, because, okay, we've worked on this for, 7.5 weeks, almost 8 weeks now. And, man, this is it. We're doing it right now. What if it just doesn't come together? And I tried not to think about that as much as you would want. You end up doing, you don't want to, but you kind of start putting doubt in, and you've got to execute, go back to it, and you push out the doubt, and then you take that fall. You're like, okay, I blew that sequence because I was so nervous, and now, okay, nothing bad's going to happen. Lower me, let me pull the rope and give it another go. And then your comfort zone comes back, and it's just that focus comes back. Well, it comes back for me because I make it come back, strangle it back.
So I actually want to ask you a question that you sort of gave me a little hint. But I kind of wrote down while you were talking, like, why climbing, why still climbing. So you were a high school golfer, you said?
Yeah, and that's golf. I do. I love golf.
That's funny because that's like my go-to opposite of climbing, but not the activity, more the culture. But so, and you grew up in, like, didn't I get
Northeastern Ohio?
Yeah, Northeastern Ohio. Okay, so give me just a little quick rundown of how you found climbing. And then we'll talk a little bit about maybe that philosophy of why it became your life versus something else.
Well, I grew up doing what I think is normal, everything outside. I was playing soccer, I played baseball, I was riding my bicycle through the woods, and when I got older, I was able to ride a dirt bike, and I'd go hiking, and I'd go camping, and I'd go fishing every Sunday with my dad. And when I was 4, I started playing hockey. Ice hockey, and so I've done things for a long time. I was, fairly athletic. I liked what I did. I liked trying hard. I liked being a part of a team. When I was a little older, I learned golf, and that was really fun. So high school, just did golf, hockey, or golf, hockey, baseball. And when I finished college, I didn't play my best in high school, but when I tried out for my college team, kind of did poor on the first hole, and then I did really well the rest of the round. And the coach says, "Yeah, you made the team." And I was like, "I don't want to do this." Like I'd learned it. When I say I'd learned it, I'd learned the mental. I'd learned, and I think I'd successfully handled the mental game. Not that I can go out and shoot a perfect round by any means at this point in the day, but I'd learned that how to control it, how to own my mind rather than letting it distract me and ruin the rest of the day. You know, because it literally was the first hole of tryouts. I got an 8, which is awful, and right in front of the coach. And then I had an amazing round the rest of the way. And it wasn't because I had an amazing round. It was because I mentally got there. And so I like doing everything outside. Golf is outside, man, whether you like it or not. And my first year of college, my brother had somebody at work say, "Hey, you should come climbing with us at this local top rope area outside Cleveland." You know, it's 30 feet tall. Sandstone, all Waco'd out. And and my brother's like, "Can my brother come?" My brother's 9 years older than me, 8 years older than me. And he's like, "Yeah, sure, bring him along." And I was terrified. Like, I'm afraid of heights, really. Like, I don't like looking over the edge ever. I like climbing up, but I don't like looking over the edge. And I went up, and I was terrified, and then the lowering part was awful. But there was something I liked about it. And so after that, I played hockey my college years, but at the same time, I knew that like this thing that I had done since I was 4 years old was coming to an end. I couldn't play full contact hockey anymore after college. Like there was men's leagues, and men's leagues didn't hit, and it was kind of lame. And so climbing had come in right at that time. It's like, this is a great way to go outside, great way to do hiking. I like to hike. This is a great way to go ahead and be in the mountains. Is a great way to see the most beautiful places on earth. And climbing is so much filled with problem solving, so much filled with that physical, like it's not going up and getting banged around on the ice. It's this almost the opposite. Because if you go and try to bang it around, you're going to run out of juice when you're on those routes. And so it was this natural progression. So college was filled with either climbing or hockey. And then as the years progressed, it was just climbing, and then hockey was done. And what was I left with that I really loved, that I was really passionate about? I was passionate about being outside and being with my friends and challenging myself, the mental side and the physical side. And, after my first climbing road trip that one of my buddies, Lee, took me on, I was like, this is it. This is where it's at. And that's where I've tried to follow through and pursue that.
And you said you got a degree in engineering?
Yeah, I have a geological engineering degree from the School of Mines.
And so you went out to school in Colorado?
Yeah, I ended up transferring out after my first year.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
So for climbing?
Not for climbing. I was bored at my college, where I went my first year, and one of my friend's moms was like, "Robbie should go to school." Everyone called me Robbie back home. "Robbie should go to School of Mines in Golden." So I went out and checked it out during the year, and I was like, "Yes, I'm going here." Right. And that was that.
Yeah. Did you so after college were you basically full-time climber? Did you get a job? And
I graduated college in December. I went to Potrero for a month and climbed many of the routes there. And I burned through 4 pairs of shoes. I climbed so many routes. I almost climbed the place out in 99, 2000. And
Were you there over the New Year?
Yeah, I went and stayed with Kurt Smith during that bash.
Yeah. I was there too.
That was a big.
We got there right before the shit hit the fan.
Yeah.
To Kurt's.
Yep.
Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, I got out of the taxi and Kurt said, "Hey," and it was sweet.
Yeah.
I hitchhiked back and then started my engineering gig. And from day one of my engineering gig, I was like, I'm quitting in about 2 years.
You mean you hitchhiked back from Potrero?
Yeah.
In Mexico?
Yeah.
Nice. How was that?
It was a good adventure. Yeah. I mean, it was what you'd expect. You didn't know what the heck was going on, and somehow I made it back.
How's your Spanish?
Limited.
Okay.
At best. I got back, and I had my date started, and I was stuck in a snowstorm the night before my first. The way I was coming back, I got stuck in a snowstorm the night before. I called my boss up. I said, "I think I'm going to be not here my first day. I'm still stuck." And so I got back and I worked there, and I knew that I wasn't ever going to go back and be an engineer, but I just stuck it out. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I was not into it. So I just worked 2 jobs. I worked at a climbing shop, not full-time, but almost full-time. I did the engineering full-time, and then I just saved everything for the climbing trip that ensued.
And how long was that?
Almost 2 years.
Okay.
Year and a half.
Right.
And then in that time, I did my soul searching. I was like, I did. I mean, I went through what I wanted to do.
Right.
And
no, the reason I laughed, I wasn't laughing at your soul searching. The way you said it as if it was like, and that's when I did this. And then I set some time away to the side to soul search.
Yes.
Got that done. Check.
Yeah, I'm kind of anal. And
soul searching ends today. Hopefully I found what I was looking for, because I have no more time for soul searching.
Yes, I'm out of cash. Soul searching is now over. And by the end of that time, I had done lots of research. I'd talked to a lot of people, and I knew that teaching was my path. And then I went back to high school. I went back to college, got my teaching license and my master's, and have been a teacher for 15 years.
Right. Always in GJ? No, Austria, and then
a couple years, 3 years in 6 years in the Front Range.
Okay.
2 different schools, and then a year overseas, and however many years fills the gap over here.
I think I first talked to you when you were either gearing up for Austria or were in Austria, because I was sort of looking into that. I think that might have been the first time we ever talked.
Right after I got back.
Yeah, and somebody put me in touch with you. Yeah, and you were a little lukewarm on it.
Oh, I mean, I loved it. I didn't. Yeah. I tell people that I was living in dreamland. I was in Salzburg, Austria. Right. I pinched myself every day I rode to work on my bicycle. It was amazing.
I don't know. Yeah. Maybe it was just that you did talk about the amount of work it turned out to be. Yeah.
Well, that was one of the reasons when I went to the job fair to get the job, the headmaster said this would be the hardest job I ever took. And I said, this is the one I want.
Okay.
Because I want to be able to, when I come back to the States, I want to be able to laugh at whatever anyone asks me to do.
Right.
And I just want to cruise.
Right.
And of course, then I get bored, and then I put more work on myself anyway.
Right. So in terms of like this, I mean, I'm joking with you about like the compartmentalizing of all these sorts of different things.
Fine.
And was the meeting this person and getting married a surprise to you, or was that something that you had thought like, okay, I'm going to just live this dream by myself and be a climber and just keep on this path, or was it something that you had thought like, okay, it's time for this? Or
more of it. Remember how I said I was going to dedicate 10 years of my life? Well, think about 22, 32-ish.
Right.
So I was about 32 at the time, and time was up.
Right.
Like, if I'm going to go ahead and, quote, become an adult now, instead of just focusing every weekend and every second on climbing, again, some people may be offended by that, but, if I'm going to grow up and take care of myself, obviously I was working, but, like, be a part of the community in some way, this was the time. And I was ready to open myself up for a relationship, if you will.
Okay.
Like the doors were closed, the vault was shut.
Up to that point.
Right. And then I opened myself up, and it was really awesome. I met
Did
Jane.
you actually wear like a monastic robe some of the time? Or
Well, I had my hair really long, and I looked like a piece of garbage most of the time.
Right.
And I was dirty and didn't shower that much, and I didn't care because it didn't matter.
Right.
And unfortunately or fortunately, your first impression is your first impression.
Mm-hmm.
If you look like shit, you're a piece of shit.
Right. So you had your own birth control rolling along.
Yes. So there wasn't anything happening.
All right. I want to talk a little bit about your training, and also, again, what we started with was this guy who's got all these balls in the air. So maybe we could talk a little bit about that, how you manage. And if there's any advice you can give and pull it out of your training advice or anything like that. So.
Sure. So for now, unless I'm focused on a goal, I'm just doing maintenance, and I really don't care where I'm at. And
in terms of climbing?
Yes. So maintenance means doing 2 circuits a week, Tuesday morning, Thursday morning at 6 a.m. I run a training program at 5 a.m., and then I run another one at 6 a.m. that I actually participate in at the local gym in Junction. And then hopefully I get out once a week, or I get a treadwall session at my house. And that's literally maintenance. That's it. So it's nothing crazy. I'll do maybe a 4x4 on the treadwall, and my training at the gym involves fingerboarding, campus boarding, and using the systems board. And then always strength conditioning for my core. Because again, if I let my back slack, then I'm in trouble. I let those low back muscles go. And that's what it takes. So because I have kids and because I don't want to go ahead and train after work when I could be spending time with my kids, I make sure that I spend it with them after. I spend the time with them after work, and I do the training before they're awake.
Okay.
So for me, the only way I could fit in trying to maintain climbing was to not take time for my family. How could I take time away from 24 hours? Was to do it before when everyone's asleep.
Okay. And when do you sleep?
I put the kids to bed at 7:30, which people are like, really? Yeah.
No, that's not that unusual.
And typically, if I don't have anything to do around the house, I'll be to bed by 8 to 8:30. And if I got a lot of balls rolling, then I'm up as late as it needs to be.
Right.
But hopefully I'm in bed by 8:30.
Okay.
So if you call or text me, there's no chance I'm going to be answering like after that hour. Because that's the golden hour where I catch up and survive.
And you've got like teaching fairly like on the autopilot, or I mean, because I remember when I was teaching, like, yeah, then there's all that too.
Yeah. So after I finish training, I go from 5 to 7. I take a shower at the gym, and I go straight to school. And I work there till 3, and then I go pick up the boys, play with the boys, and then hang out with my wife and kids till it's bedtime. And the teaching portion. If I was in the same school I started with, I would have quit already, probably gone crazy, because most folks, the curriculum doesn't change, right? You taught.
Mm-hmm.
And how boring is that? It's pretty boring. And I teach science, so I teach all the different subjects. And where I'm at right now at an alternative school, I have the flexibility and the leeway to integrate everything in any way, shape, or form that I like. Or that not so much that I like that will be meaningful to my student body. So what does that mean? There's no textbook. There's no curriculum. There's what's necessary. And that's based on what does my student body need. So it's an interactive class. At the beginning of the year or the beginning of a session, we find out where we need to go, and then we go there. And then I pull out what is necessary from there. So it's not stagnant. There's never a repeat. I can't go back to my old notes. There are no old notes for what they're going to ask for, because what they need and what they where their goals are constantly changing. So it's really a weird place to be. So I have no script. There's nothing I can fall back on. And every day or every session I create new.
So how do you do that? Like, I mean, are you just so practiced in it that you can improvise what needs to be done? It just sounds like a massive amount of work.
It's a lot of work, but it's because it needs to be done that way. I feel that if the kids get what's rehearsed, they don't give heads or tails for it.
Okay.
They need to see that it's genuine, that it's real, and that this is how it is. So yes, is it work? Yes. My master's is in curriculum development, so that's writing the stuff. Mm-hmm. And if I happen to be good at anything, I'm really good at creating a well thought out progression of learning.
Okay.
And it's definitely one of my strengths. So can I do it more quickly than others? Yes. I enjoy brainstorming those ideas with other teachers, and boom, it's there. I can execute it. And it's cool. And we see students meeting their learning objectives, moving forward with, if you want to say, the standards, and getting where they need to be. And that's what counts. And a book doesn't take you there.
Right.
Your interest in when you're interested and your motivation takes you there. So it's a different approach. And I'm very fortunate to work at a school where it works that way, or it can work that way.
So I was thinking like, okay, so we'll get like some, we'll have Rob on and he'll tell us like some pearls of wisdom about like how to do all this stuff. But I'm kind of starting to feel like you can't help us because we're not like you. And we're going to have to be like you if this is all going to work. Like I want you to tell me how it's done, but basically you're basically saying that like I am some sort of preternatural freak of nature that can do this, and unless you just come in like
no, I appreciate the compliment.
No, I just called you a freak of nature.
I know. I like it. Okay, no,
I mean, do you understand where I'm coming from?
No, I hear what you're saying. You're like, dude, when you're like, so I just have to like never quit and really work hard and walk the hard hill and just
sleep.
And not sleep. It's not so much that.
No, you do sleep. You just
have
go to sleep really early.
I have to sleep.
Yeah, while it's still light out.
Yes. Unless I'm on a big wall epicing. It's planning is the key. Ultimately, you're a dad now. If you don't plan, nothing happens. Nothing happens. And you don't achieve where you want to be. You're not happy. Your partner's not happy. Your kid's not happy. So, my plan, the regime is, like I said, those 2 days a week I get my training in. I work in the mornings before I go to work. And then in the afternoons, with the exception of Tuesday where I work all night at the gym teaching folks, is all family time. And in that time, it's dedicated to family. When I'm at school, I'm fully dedicated to school. So I guess you're painting right now. When you're painting, you can kind of think about stuff. But when you're doing trim or finishing a room and you make that mistake up top, it's when you're not focused on it, right? So my advice is whatever you're committing to, whatever the moment is commit to it. And you'll do it more efficiently, more effectively, rather than what we generally do. We zone out at work. We check our instant everything, and we're distracted constantly rather than having that focus. So planning and focus, and then always, I don't train just to train. I train to maintain my back health, and when you're looking to achieve something climbing wise or whatever, there has to be that goal, and then there has to be a regimented plan that you follow. And as soon as you stop following it, the results are not guaranteed. Mm-hmm. And I like to go ahead and stack the deck in my favor because I don't have time, as you say. I don't have time. Okay.
So your partner that you were on a bunch of stuff we've been talking about today is Mike Anderson, and he's the author of a training book.
Yes. And
I haven't read it because I need to do things like that, but that's why I guess I'm so confounded by you. I'd be like your slovenly brother that you wouldn't have any time for if we were related. But yeah, so I mean, it sounds like maybe this guy was also like the perfect partner for you.
Oh, it was amazing.
Yeah,
so regimented. Yeah, very task oriented.
And he was a military guy, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he's just like that. So you guys like found each other in the night.
It was
at exactly 12:30, which you had planned for your ships to pass at that very moment ahead of time.
It was amazing. Mike was actually working on the low route because I don't know if you remember when he got the first free ascent of that in Zion. Mm-hmm. And I was going down there to do a big link up of a bunch of big walls the same weekend, and both of us got rained out. So we ended up in the Utah hills in St. George, cragging, and I was like, well, if we can't climb a big wall, I'm going to climb every route on the wall and just go down the wall, bam, 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 bam. And we finally ended up.
And he was coming, doing the same thing from the other direction. And you guys met at the very middle of the wall, and you just locked eyes and were like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?"
Yeah. So we met on the wall, and at the base of the crag, and what were you? Who are you? We're up from Salt Lake. Oh, what are you doing? Oh, we were in Zion. I was like, oh yeah, we were in Zion today this morning too. And what were you doing? Oh, I wanted to do this link up of whatever. And my partner and I were like, oh, he goes, oh, you like to climb in Zion? We need to get your number.
Okay.
So that was
he was climbing with his brother, right?
With his wife at the
his
time.
Wife.
Yeah.
But he does climb.
He did climb with his brother quite a bit.
Okay.
And yeah, they're both crushers at this point.
So can I ask you a difficult question?
Yes.
Have you burned out partners?
I'll say that like climbing is a progression from one particular style to another. I've gone through partners in that way.
Okay.
I haven't burned out of them.
Sure.
But
that has a negative context, and I guess I'm actually implying a slightly negative context. Have you ever just like run them ragged till they're like, I can't climb with you anymore, Rob?
Yes.
Sorry, I'm done. Yeah.
And I've also, I have, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Because there's fortunately somebody else.
Right.
And what's great about that is I get to meet and know and put my total trust in somebody else and get to build that relationship again.
Right.
Which is really, really awesome. And that's one of the incredible things about climbing is that relationship between you and your partner. Like Matt and I who've been going out we've just been going through this. We're learning about each other and trading stories and learning each other's style and how that works and building trust and confidence. And that's what it's about.
Right.
Like this is half of sending, is me trusting him or me trusting you, because I refer to the list as my partner list. The list is short,
right.
and you're off the list way easy.
Right.
Like if you don't call, you're off. You're done. If you don't text me, you're going to be late. You're off. I don't have time for you. Seriously.
Right.
Those are basically the big ones. If you go ahead and give a shitty belay and that's going to endanger me or yourself, you're off the list.
Right.
If you're belaying sitting in a lawn chair, you're off the list. Like, so if I just see you belaying in a chair, you're off the list. So my life is very valuable to me and my family, and it's not going to go. And, I'm going to control that decision. I have the active choice of climbing with who I want, and you go ahead and it's more of you burning it by your behavior, not me. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to follow through with me saying that. So when you're off the list, you're off the list.
Right. There's no apologizing and getting back.
No, it's not. No, you're a fine person. I'm just not going to trade belays with you. You're not going to be scheduled to go do a trip with me because I can't trust you anymore.
Is Burr still on the list?
Burr is always on the list.
Oh, see, come on.
Burr's
he hasn't ever broken one of those rules?
No, he's reliable. He's
Okay.
as reliable. He's an A-teamer. Like, I want him to save me. Yeah, there's a few people that are A-teamers that are go-to A-teamers at any time of my life, and Burr is one of those guys.
Man.
Ari Manitow is one of those guys. Mike Brumbaugh is one of those guys. And then the list is over.
So that's in Matt.
Matt's
he's on probation.
He's trustworthy.
Right. He's on the bottom. He's like on the under the low list or something. Or is there
he's on the acceptable.
Okay.
Yes.
Nice.
He's sitting in the studio right now. Just
like if I could know. Yeah, he's actually sitting in the room, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking about him. He doesn't have a mic.
No, like I wouldn't be climbing with him if I didn't trust him.
Right on.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's it.
All right, I'm going to have to.
That's a good thing.
Is this something you lay out ahead of time with people pretty clearly?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Good.
I let everybody know.
Okay. Yeah, that's it. I mean, we walked into that because I'm like starting to feel this like, okay, there's no fucking around. Like that's kind of your thing. Like
you're there. You found it. You figured it out.
Right.
That's the secret.
That's the secret. We did it. We got to the end.
But we have a good time along the way.
Right.
You certainly can laugh and tell dick jokes all day long.
Right on. Yeah, dick jokes are okay. All right, cool. Well, right on, Rob. Well, thanks a lot for sitting down, and you actually did get us to the secret.
The secret.
Yeah.
There it is.
I think I wish I could name the episode that, but I don't think I want. I don't think I actually...
Pressure.
Yeah, so sounds good. But thanks a lot for sitting down. I'm glad we finally did it.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
And it's been an insight into who you are for me because, again, you are, even though I know you sort of, I mean, we're acquaintances, friends. We have not climbed together. I have not put my time into to get on the list. But
you can be on the list.
I can try.
You're not off the list
I know.
because I haven't
You're
seen
automatically
any garbage.
on.
Yeah,
okay.
You're on the list until you do something to remove yourself from the list.
But yeah, so it's kind of cool because I am a new dad, and you've dialed it in. I've seen you rolling through rifle with your kids, and so it's a bit of an inspiration to me. And yeah, I'm gonna have to focus a little more. It's basically what I'm looking at, and I feel it. I feel the scheduling thing. Like I definitely feel all these things that you're talking about as we're rolling into having a kid and getting through the summer and doing some climbing with them. So
it's awesome. It's fun.
Yeah. Well, thanks a lot for sitting down.
Thanks. Have a great day. I appreciate it, Chris.
All right, folks, thanks for listening, and thanks to Rob Pizem for sitting down and squeezing me into his extraordinarily tight schedule. Very tight. He was up at the trade show for a day and beating the carpet, and managed to fit one in with the Enormocast, so that's awesome. Thanks to Rob. I kind of felt a little like I felt after the Randy Levitt episode years ago when I just felt like maybe I'd wasted most of my life doing nothing, sitting around. I had nothing much to show for it. But thanks to Rob for sitting down, giving us a few tips. Just don't be lazy, essentially. Just get it done. Sleeping's for fools. Or go to bed at 8, whatever it takes. All right, folks, my usual spiel here. Please consider checking out the Help Out page on the Enormocast website at enormocast.com. See what you can do to help this thing out. Add a review over at iTunes, like the Facebook page, whatever it takes. I occasionally put my proverbial foot in my mouth over there, so it can get kind of fun on the Facebook page every once in a while if I've been drinking. Also, remember to support our sponsors. They, of course, do not support the Enormocast just out of the kindness of their hearts. They hope to get something out of it, namely your business. So please help out the Enormocast by supporting those folks. All right. Great time to be a climber in the United States at this moment. The fall, late September, early October. It's pretty much nice nearly everywhere, except for high in the mountains. Maybe get a little snow lately, but man, this is the zone. This is the time. So get out there. Of course, check your knots. I just read about a horrible rappelling accident. Knot came undone somehow. Slow down for a second, do it right, and check it. Then check it again.
Now, you kids are probably saying to yourselves, hey, I'm going to go out and I'm going to get the world by the tail and wrap it around and pull it down and put it in my pocket. Well, I'm here to tell you that you're probably going to find out as you go out there that you're not going to amount to jack squat.
Yo, what up?
Hey, how's it going, Luke?
Hey, Chris, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I've been epicing with my baby all evening, but, he's a little bit upset because he was at Grandma's for the last week in Wisconsin. Now he's back in Colorado, so I don't think he gets it.
He likes the Colorado or the Midwest better?
I don't know. We're going to find out if he gets back in tune here or not. Maybe we'll just have to send him to Grandma's house permanently. But yeah, he's. I think he might be a little even with just the hour time difference, might be kind of fucking him up. But anyhow, I was calling to see how your book sales are coming, dude. I mean, did you get the normal comp or what?
You want like a cut or something? What is this?
No, I'm just kind of, we're all even. We're all even, Steven. We're mutually supportive of one another. We just basically we donate. I give you $20 for something on some donation, and then suddenly you give it back to me. And, I don't know. But I think I'm ahead right now, though. I'll be honest with you. I think I think I've gotten more out of you than you've gotten out of me. But that's what I was wondering. Has it worked at all?
Yeah, things are going great, man. Things are going great. People are reading the work, and I think that's really all you can ask for as a writer.
So I wanted to ask you. It's kind of funny because it's a memoir, and for some reason, I thought you were a lot younger than you are. But
yeah, I'm 37. I'll be 38 shortly. Yeah.
I don't know why. I guess it's just been. I don't know why it seemed like you were younger than you are, but I guess that's been like a running theme in my life for the last few years. So it just must be because I'm getting so goddamn old. But yeah, because when I first was like, oh, he wrote a memoir, I was like, that's audacious. Like,
this motherfucker doesn't have enough material for a memoir.
I mean, the dude puts out a zine, and it's like, the thing's like, a quarter-inch thick. But so anyway, that's kind of what I want to ask you. Like, was there any sort of consternation in your mind of like, hey, is my life story ready for print?
Yeah, I mean, I thought I was going to write a novel, and then I actually learned what a memoir was. But I mean, I think I wouldn't have had a memoir at the age of 37 or whatever if I hadn't have been through some tumultuous things that happened to me in my youth, just kind of like getting super depressed and suicidal in the Midwest. And then what kind of came out of that was what I think is in the book.
I mean, you've been writing sort of very personal stuff for a while. We joked on your Normacast, your interview about the too soon poetry. Which was when a guy gives poetry to a girl who's not really expecting it or doesn't think of the relationship as serious enough to call for poetry. Because that's a big move. But
and I still write poetry. I just write on time poetry now.
Oh, right, perfectly timed. Perfectly timed poetry. That's what 37 years of maturity gives you. It's better timing. But anyway, you're a reflective guy. You reflect in your writing. It's a lot of it is, very personal, or at least like a twist on some personal stories. But still, was there concern in your mind, or about revealing, what ends up being some pretty heavy stuff? As you said, it's like much of the first, all the book, but the first half in particular is just about a lot of depression and really almost dumb decisions and drugs, and it's a lot. It's very revealing. Were you ever worried about that?
I completely was when it came out, and the reaction has been completely the opposite. I think that people really crave that like real life shit. I think that I really felt like I got embraced by people who read it, and it was more like my true story I have than some of my just other shorter writing, and my mom and dad read it too, which I think my mom's reaction was the one I was concerned about the most, because there's just, I come from a conservative Catholic family in the Midwest, and I was, worried about her reaction, and I think she's just happy I'm alive, and she read it, and she would have to go on walks. She'd be texting me. She's like, well, you almost just died again in this story. And she didn't know. I mean, you don't tell your parents, like, when you almost die climbing, like, you don't just bring that up at like Thanksgiving dinner, I guess, did they have some inkling of the trials you were going through kind of before you became a climber? A bit, for sure, yeah. But they didn't realize, my dad said he never realized how depressed I was until he read my writing. And it's like, I'm pretty close with my parents for, them living in the Midwest and me living in Colorado. But for him to never even know that like I was, super depressed and, suicidal is pretty profound, Did you, have you guys kind of casually spoken about it, or has this gotten, to where you've had deep conversations now about it? Not really, no, because, the Midwest thing, you're from the Midwest, people just aren't open. I think I learned when I moved to Colorado and, met climbers and hippies and stuff, but I really think the Midwest culture is like a very open culture. You're kind of taught to keep things in and not talk about a wide variety of topics, and maybe mental health is like one of those, and I think too, it's a bit generational, if you're 37, which puts your parents probably fairly younger than mine, but maybe not too much, because my parents had me really young, but I suppose yours did too. So did mine. If they're Catholic, I assume they must have had you young as well. But still, it is, especially in the Midwest, it's like, kind of stoic generational thing too, to just grin and bear it, And Catholicism too, yeah. Yeah, you deserve whatever hardship you're getting. So just suck it up. It's something you did in your past. You've masturbated way too much. Now you're getting your just rewards. But yeah, I also kind of wanted to ask you a little bit about the dirtbag thing plays big, not just in the book, but also in kind of the climbing zines media, and you also just released a film. What was it called exactly? Something about the dirtbag. Last Thoughts on the Dirtbag. It was kind of in the same lyrical style as Last Thoughts on Woody Guthrie by Bob Dylan. So, and that's out there now too. So tell me a little bit about this mythology, if it is, or what these thoughts are that have, sort of bring you back to this idea, this symbol over and over again. Yeah, I just wanted to try to capture the dirtbag era of the late 90s and early 2000s, and I think things kind of changed after that once everyone was walking around with the smartphone. You have Mountain Project and all these things, and you talk about that a lot on the show too, but I just want to capture that era, really. I'm still whatever dirtbag, throw the word around or whatever, but I just want to capture that era, and I never even heard the word dirtbag back then, and I really wanted to capture like the Gunnison dirtbag too, because it's such a quiet scene up there in Gunnison, Colorado. You know, where we originally met and where I went to college, and I just wanted to capture that real simplistic kind of real dirtbag lifestyle. Just kind of put it on paper, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is sort of it's like that thing where people outside looking in don't quite maybe get it and what it means, and you know, like I said, like what the difference between a dirtbag and a homeless person is. You know, it's quite a bit different, and you know, obviously a lot of times, especially with climbing dirtbags, it's a choice that has been made, you know, versus some sort of circumstances that have run you down. But yeah, I think it is something that I can't tell if it's really going away or if it's just a little bit more hidden in between the lines now. You know what I mean?
It's just different. It's evolving, and I just, as far as the mythology goes too, I mean, I think it's like a generation, every generation like looks back in the generation before, kind of starting, you know, like John Salate and Yosemite, and I think the mythology of us is like Yvon Chouinard and like Royal Robbins and those guys, and even the Gunnison guys like Tom Pulaski or like Jim Niagara, like people that people haven't heard of a lot, or Jimmy Dunn or whatever. Like, I think we kind of look at that previous generation like, whoa. So I think that the generation now might even just be looking at like the late 90s, early 2000 people. Like, there wasn't a big like paved parking lot and super crack buttress.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So as people have been reading this book, or it's gotten out there, or even just the climbing zine, have you heard from people, you know, either who long to do the same thing you did and get out of whatever thumb they're under in a non-climbing place, or other people that kind of went through the same things you did?
Yeah, I mean, I get a lot of feedback from it, but none of it's really kind of what I thought it would be, you know. It's just, yeah, people are like reading it and enjoying it and saying nice things. And I mean, that's kind of like the coolest thing ever, is like when you inspire someone. So, but it hasn't been on any particular tangent of like, oh, you know, I'm going to quit my job and do this thing. It's just people appreciating the work. Like my friend's mom's like reading the book and stuff. Like, yeah, just totally random. So it hasn't really fit a mold of the feedback at all. It's been good that people are reading it and enjoying it. And like, I'm off on a road trip and then I, you know, come back and check my computer and sold a bunch of books, and it's just like, you know, living the dream.
Cool. Yeah, it's going to happen. I know it's going to happen. I mean, it probably is not getting is widely outside of the climbing circle yet. But once that happens, you know, it's definitely going to inspire somebody, and then you're going to be responsible for that, which occasionally happens to me, where I get some email where somebody's like, I'm quitting my job and hitting the road.
Yeah.
And I always email back like, that's awesome, but don't blame me, you know, when you're under a bridge, like with, you know, 3 Mankey quick draws to your name and you're just like mumbling beta into a tree stump or something like that. I had nothing to do with that.
Well, you've got like groupies and stuff now, or not really groupies, but fanboys. You have fanboys.
I definitely have.
I don't really want that. I don't really want what you have, man.
No, you do. You want earnest young men to be following your every move.
But there's
you do. It's like, awesome.
I hear people talking about the Normacast all the time, though, at the crag and stuff. And for a while, that was like my biggest claim to fame, that I've been on the Normacast. I kind of like resented you for it. Normacast. That's where I got the climbing zine. I'm like, goddamn, Caloose.
Yeah, I know we've sold some climbing zines together, though. Come on. It's had to have happened. It's had to have happened. So
yeah.
Well, cool. Well, thanks for the quick chat, and I hope it really gets out there, like I said, beyond the climbing community, and does sort of open some kids' eyes or young people's eyes about like the possibilities. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I just think, I mean, like going back to dirtbagging and stuff, it's just like, it's just so easy to just pull out a screen and look at it at any point now, and I think that like something like climbing like gets our mind away from that whole world, and it's like, it's kind of like encroaching on everything. And actually Serena Lee, this writer out of Denver, wrote a piece for the next zine about like technology and climbing, and how climbing is like one of the pure activities that you're like not looking at a screen.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's something like kind of powerful for that will definitely hold true for like the next generation coming up in the game, you know.
Yeah, well, awesome, Luke. Good luck, and we're looking forward to the next zine coming out and the perpetual, the NormaCast ad that goes in it.
Yeah, it's a beautiful. It's like old school now.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of funny. It's a bummer because I think I nailed it off the bat, and now it's like when I sit down to maybe replace it, I'm like, I can't come up with anything better than that. So hopefully people enjoy it and enjoy that next issue coming out.
Word.
All right, well, take it easy.
Thanks, Chris.